wonderful talk, Siku. Maficho. I just want to firstly say that I'm thankful for the organization that brought me here. I think it is very timely, it's important. The talk of climate change, it's a crisis, it's not changing, it's a crisis. We are living in a world that we are not going to change it. We are not going to go back to where it was. That time has been given to us and we left it. When I was a young chief, my upbringing comes from my parents. My father, that was a chief, and his father, that was a chief, and as far back as we could remember, that leadership was instilled in me. I've inherited. So when I became a chief, I just want to say this little story. Before I became a chief, I was an architect draftsman, designing buildings and homes. I was employed with the Department of Public Works, and I was on assignment in Susoke, another Dënesųłiné gathering in the East Arm. And it was a huge crowd in this little small community hall. And we were just talking about the design and the structure of this community hall, this maintenance building that they wanted to build. Of all buildings, this was maintenance, but this hall was completely full. And I was leading the talks in my language. And soon, a young man walks in. And he walks way around and he came right to me and he handed me a paper. So I looked at it briefly. There was just in those days, they call it a telex. Today we call it fax. The same thing. Anyway, the telex just had one sentence that says, "Francois, you are now the chief of the Fitz-Smith Indian Band, come home." So I just quietly just put this in my paper. I just about threw it in the garbage. But I stuffed it in my pocket. And that was the beginning of a work. I just want to, I'm not going to talk about the Paulette case, but I just want to make references to people that were leaders, that were chiefs at the time. And they were instrumental in designing who I am. And one of the chiefs at the time was Allooloo Andrew's father. This lady sitting right here. He was part of the Paulette case. And I'm thankful for that. I'm also thankful for the woman chief here. My job as a man is I'm a gatherer, is I'm a hunter. I can track moose in the summer, in the fall, in the winter. That's how I've been trained. But I have a responsibility. And my responsibility is pretty straightforward. I'm a protector of the earth, of Mother Earth. That's the teachings that come with me. The sacred teachings of all life forms, the balance. But more so, I also have a responsibility to the womankind, to the woman. My job is to protect them, like I protect the earth. So I'm thankful for when a woman leader becomes a chief. Because it seems that I come from a tribal system of government that is matriarch system. A long time ago, the women were the heads of governments. They picked the leaders. And they did, and the world was balanced. So when I see a woman chief, I am very, very proud, and I honor that. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to, this world as we know it is changing. It has changed. It is no longer just change, it's a crisis. I am impacted every day. I live out in the bush. I live in the country. I've never had the luxury, or I've never had of living in a city. I don't know what it is like to live in a city. So, being in a bush is where I am more relaxed. My investors, people who invest in me, is not Esso Resources or Syncrude. My investors are all the trees, the river, the four-leggeds, the birds. Because when I'm in the bush, that's what I'm surrounded with. They're constantly speaking to me. And when I travel, I come home, the first place that I go to is I travel down to the river. And I just thank them that I'm home, that I'm all right. Because the ancestors are still with us. They guide us from day to day. So, Siku laid out the talk of Berger inquiry of what it's like to protect the earth. In my home, the river system is probably the most powerful place to be. And the people that live along the river completely understand that. But the river where I live was in danger of being destroyed. They wanted to build hydro on the river that would create 2,000 megawatts. This would destroy the river. I was a chief back in the 70s, an active chief, and I opposed it. We gathered the people, we mobilized the people, and the components, and one of them was the Alberta government left. And he said, we're going to come back. So they did come back, not too long ago. That's 6 years ago. ATCO came back. And this time, they had money. They could have paid me $1 million to engage in their destruction, but I didn't. we now had to tackle them. But this time, what we did, the chief and council, he engaged in writing the environmental report from the way he saw it. At the end, the chief and council, I remember coming off the river in the fall from a moose hunt. And my nephew, was the young chief at the time, saw me come off the river. I seen a vehicle come. He says, "Uncle, you need to see this." He says, "We're having a meeting up in the hall." So I jumped and I went over there. And there was ATCO. And the young chief, he had a resolution to present to ATCO. And just simply put, he says, we did our study. This river is going to stay the way it is. We're not going to obstruct it. In the foreseeable future, there is going to be no hydro. And he gave them a resolution. ATCO's response. He says, "We're glad that you're telling us that now. Because if we went down this road and doing more feasibility studies, and we spent millions of dollars, it would have been hard to get out of." So, the tar sands is the biggest and the largest polluters in Canada. It's been operating now for over 50 years. Just imagine that this government is supporting pipelines. This government is supporting the building of tech resources. That's incredible. At the same time, you just signed an agreement in Paris to meet certain numbers. And if they proceed, they might as well just throw that agreement out the window, because they will not meet the standards that they had set. This tech resources, the tar sands, I live downstream from it. I can see, I go moose hunting, I travel in the summer, I can see the sludge on the river. That's pollution. It's very heavy on the heart. Because I have my grandchildren, and they see that, and I show them that. The tar sands is close to 1/3 of Canada's green gas emissions, concentrated in one place. The river is polluted. We are having cancers, many of them, from there to the Arctic Ocean. We're having respiratory problems. There is much respiratory problem. I had 3 friends in the last 3-4 years that have died of respiratory problems. But I want to say one thing is that I chaired the Stanton Territorial Hospital Elders Council. And talking about engaging in traditional knowledge and how we're going to incorporate that in the hospital. But the question kept coming up, why is there so much cancer? Where is this cancer coming from? The elders requested the doctors to provide us with a report. And a while, 2-3 weeks later, they brought in their report. And you just said simply, he said, nationally, in Canada, stomach cancer is the 3rd highest. In the Northwest Territory, for some reason or another, stomach cancer is the highest, number 1. Next question to the doctors, where is this coming from? The doctors only can point to the water, to the environment. This destruction of the earth and the waters, if you live on the land and you live by the laws of the land, and you see this happening, well, you get angry. You want to do something about it. So, I travel to bring the message. A message that we need to get off fossil fuel. We need to engage in clean energy, wind turbines, solar energy. That's where we must go. But one thing is that we, as people, the time is not on our side. We're beyond repair. As you know, Canada last year have passed a resolution that there's an emergency. There's a climate change emergency. So what does that mean? We see the world being destroyed around us. I just want to point out 3 places. Slave Lake in Alberta. A few years ago, it's a fossil fuel community. Half of the town just about got burnt down. You think you would make a connection. And then Fort McMurray. You think you would make a connection. Last year, high level. These are fossil fuel communities. The Creator is giving them notice, but they don't make the connection. For 3 days, high level, roads going in and out, people couldn't move. This one day I went to the store and the shelves were empty. Empty. And I'm thinking, if this was to go on for 1 week, we will have a huge problem. So, is that we need to prepare. We need to begin to bring the elders, traditional knowledge holders, and the leadership to plan for tomorrow. If this destruction of the environment, the fires, the floods, we need to prepare for that. It's as simple as that. You look at California, you look at Australia, you look at all these places where natural disasters are happening. I meet people from an island at these COP meetings, and they're asking for help, and their island is sinking, is being flooded. And they got to move. So our people need to prepare. One thing that our tribe, I come from Wood Buffalo Park, and we had a lot of buffalo. They're no longer there. They are there, but there are small pockets of them. For the first time in the last 10 years, our tribe has been looking at putting buffalo in captivity so we can eat. The Yukon, your biggest resource is not gold. Your biggest resource is the porcupine herd, that free roaming herd. That's your biggest resource. There are over 200,000 of them. But they are going to be, and the people of the Kuchins, they travel to the States to protect that herd. They're not allowing the United States government to build any kind of offshore drilling, oil and gas through that territory. And you should support them. Where I come from, we're not so fortunate. We are not so fortunate. All these caribous that were in the millions, there are just pockets. But because of industrial development, I'm talking about gold mines, diamond mines, it's impacted the caribou herd drastically. Right now, government's imposing that only certain places that people can hunt caribou. This has never happened in their lifetime. And of course, you will be angry. Last year, I heard a young chief say, we may have to become herders, like the Sami people, herding caribou, reindeer in Scandinavian country, and the Navajo people. Those herds are stable. So food security is becoming an issue. So that's preparing for food that has sustained us for thousands of years. I want to say that the buffalo is a sacred animal. Where is the man with the stick? See this beautiful photograph? That was taken in January, about 3 weeks ago or so. There's something different about this photo. This was 40 below. What is different about this photo? This calf. This calf, at this time of the year, you should be about this big, with black coat. This calf is the color when he's born in the spring. I don't know whether this calf will make it through the winter. The whole natural order is off balance. So this photo really hurts me to see that. Because the whole natural order, we cannot talk about cycles anymore. It's gone. We have no rabbits in my territory. I have a fox that's eating bird seeds every night. And at my neighbor's and at my place. And we put out food for him sometimes. And the skunk, he didn't go to bed till end of November. And he's eating bird seeds also. It is totally out of whack. The natural order as we know it is not the way it is. So, cycles of rabbits, lynx, those days are gone. You say that our old people say that when the time comes, there's going to be a migration north of humans. That's a prophecy. Yes.
What's migrating north?
People.
Humans.
Okay.
Well, the moose I was talking about, they're way up in the high Arctic. They're at the ocean. When I was talking in Poland, there was an Inuit from Allooloo, copper mine, that went out for a skidoo drive. He counted 12 moose. They're way out of their territory. And a friend of mine that lives in Inuvik, his husband is a helicopter pilot. He says there's a hill there, he counted 17 moose. He's never witnessed that before. So these rabbits I was talking about, those rabbits, he says there's a lot of rabbits where I live. How did they get up there? So there was this migration north already happening, taking place. So when the impact happens to the humans, the prophecy is that people are going to start moving north. But that is, they're going to be looking for two things, food and water. So when I looked at this, in Sweden, I traveled there. Scientists are starting to study spruce tree. This tree is starting to die from the top down. This spruce tree, where it's standing, there was a garage there. And oil must have been spilled on the ground there. So that tree is dying from the top down. So when I travel the river, I'm starting to notice trees dying from the top down because there's something wrong with the water. So we're witnessing this huge, huge impact. And we as humans, we need to change our way. Yesterday, we had a lot of good times. Yesterday, we had a lot of successful times. But we failed in protecting Mother Earth. We failed in protecting the rivers because greed, industrial greed of money became first. Today, there's hope. There's hope all over the world. There's hope because when young people stand up, that is hope. I'm impacted by the crisis. And when I look at these young people, they're going to be double impact. They are going to be more impacted than me. Now, this is where our lives have to begin to change. And if we can just look at the future, and if we can create a space of freedom, a freedom to do what was right in protecting the earth spiritually, that can happen. I constantly remind the people to return to your sacred lands, to return to lands of where our people prayed and give thanks. I ask the people to give offering of prayer. We have water ceremonies. You can conduct water ceremonies. Feeding of the fire ceremony. Drum songs. So our people can be spared. The people that give offering of thanks are spared. So, this freedom I talk about is to a freedom of where it was the way it was before 1492. So, my friends, my message is simple, pretty clear, that we just need to instruct the leadership, to instruct the governments, to instruct this young leader, Trudeau. I knew his father. Now I met him. And sometime in our language we say he speaks in forked tongue. Two thoughts. The one on the left and the one on the right. And the one on the left and the right don't come together. So there's a problem. So I just want to close with this final shot of Poland. When you speak at these assemblies, you're only allowed 2 minutes to talk. So when I spoke there in Poland, not this year, the year before, on behalf of the indigenous people, there is over 400 million indigenous people in the world.
Qui a également facilité les travaux sur ces questions en mai, et également M. Geert Vreemoet de la Belgique, qui a participé très activement aux travaux, parfois à titre personnel, pour nous aider à trouver un accord. Merci aux deux. J'espère que c'est acceptable aux partis cette fois-ci. Et je donne la parole au chef Francois Paulette.
Firstly I'm going to say a few remarks, and then I'm going to have these young people behind me sing you a song. They're Maori people. I want to first say I want to thank the people for adopting the Indigenous Peoples Platform. That's a positive move in the right direction. As our lands and our waters and our territories are rapidly being destroyed before our very eyes, it is disappointing to see that you have not come to an agreement on the 1.5. The indigenous peoples, our traditional knowledge is infinite. And we have lived with Mother Earth very closely for thousands and thousands of years without destroying it. Western science has its limits. And that's why the Indigenous people are here to help you and assist you in what is happening in the destruction and desecration of Mother Earth. And I hope that very soon, your time is not on our side, unfortunately. And you must see and you must understand and know that the Indigenous people, if we were 100% participants and equals in this forum, this 1.5, our knowledge, our reading is hovering at 2%. Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm going to close off this event. Once again, I want to thank the organizers for this beautiful evening, and the people of Whitehorse and all the communities around here. You have a responsibility in your communities, in this town, maybe to think differently, to be innovative of how we can protect the future of our grandchildren. I'm just going to ask my daughter to come up and close.
I don't have a closing prepared. I think one of the things that really struck me as a message that Indigenous young people are saying all throughout this country, and we're saying at the UN convention, is that Indigenous people in this country make up 5% of the population, but worldwide, we safeguard 80% of the world's biodiversity. And there's no mistaking that a lot of the solutions that are needed are based in the values that we uphold, and those places are protected for very tangible reasons. And I really hope that the message that my dad is bringing everywhere he travels, I hope that people hear this and start to take very seriously the role that we have to play, that we are stepping into of our own accord. We are taking the initiative because our lives depend on it, and because the future of the planet does depend on it. All human beings are at the behest of Mother Earth, and we really do have a significant role to play in partnership in developing solutions that are viable for everybody. And so I'm very, very grateful to have been able to walk alongside and in his footsteps, to have him as a guide, and to know what it means to have a connection to the land that sustains who I am, and it nourishes me, and to be at a point in my life where I can use my voice to speak on behalf of that which sustains me. And I really dream and envision being able to do that, more people, more voices, being able to do that, to bring our own unique gifts and pieces of this work, because space has been made. Space also needs to be claimed, and we each have something to bring. So I hope that you find it within your own paths to find out what that is, and to bring it forward, that life-giving gift that you have. Bring it forward, and let's build a good way together. Merci.